Hello, everyone. This is the weekly catch up for the, well, it's not the rich text editor anymore. For the content editor,
Yeah.
um, scaffolding goal of this milestone of 13.10 and the Wiki edit page remigration. So we're going to share some updates and discuss some topics around these two projects. So let's start with the content editor scaffolding. So last week, we made significant progress on creating the test infrastructure for the editor. I'm gonna share the MR here. Oops. Here. So the idea is that we are creating a test framework where we can ensure that the content editor can process the output of the Gitlab Markdown API. And it also ensures that when the content editor generates Markdown, it is the same Markdown as the input that we provided to the Markdown API, to the Markdown API endpoint. So this merge request is under code review. Test setup. And that's basically the highlight of the week. We are now 2 days before the end of this milestone, and I don't think that I like we will be able to deliver the complete goal of the scaffolding that was setting up this test framework, setting up the directory structure of how we are going to organize all of the code for the component, and also adding some basic documentation describing all of those artifacts. So that's not happening on this milestone because it's like, you know, like there are only 2 days left, and also we are like now I'm gonna try to focus on rolling out search settings for the rest of the, you know, at least at the start of the week. So I was thinking that rather than focusing on like putting a lot of effort on continuing with the development of the scaffold, I want to spend more time defining the requirements of the content editor MVC. So last week on the editor group weekly call, we set as a goal for 14.0 to deliver the content editor MVC. However, that goal, we have that goal, but I feel that the requirements or the scope of the MVC is not clear. And it's difficult to determine if we can achieve that goal, since I don't know exactly what an MVC means in the context of the content editor. I have 3 questions that I feel that could help us to define the MVC. The MVC. The first one is if the content editor MVC can display every existing wiki page. Because if that's the case, we have to define a prose mirror schema that understands every type of content that that Gitlab Flavored Markdown supports. The other question is what editing tools do we want to provide in the MVC? Like we can provide tools to define headings, but or to define other type of content, but that doesn't necessarily like supporting every type of content in GitLab Flavored Markdown doesn't mean that we have to support or provide tools to edit those type of content. And my third question is how we are going to roll out the content editor in the wiki. Like it's going to be an optional experience. We're going to use feature flags, or what type of methodology we are following. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I think whether the content editor can display something and whether you can actually edit something, uh, those are two questions, right? Uh, so regardless of the question, I think displaying something is doesn't really make sense, uh, because displaying, like, it's basically a what you see, what you get editor, right? So displaying it means, without editing it means that it's just the same content, and you cannot really edit it. So the whole idea of close mirror is not really useful there.
But then if that's the case, that will force us uh, to implement an editor that supports the entire GitLab Flavor Markdown specification before we can allow the user to test the editor. Um, and like that could be a big scope for an MVC.
Yes, I understand. So if you just display the close mirror, like the content editor in read-only mode, there is no difference between that content editor and the preview tab.
Yes, but I know
From from the,
Mhm.
from the perspective of user, yes.
when I say about when I talk about displaying a content and not providing editing tools, I don't mean that the editor will be read only. What I mean is that we can display, for example, a table in the content editor, and we don't provide a specific table specific editing tools. Like the user can still edit the text within the table because
Okay,
Crossmeter
okay.
provides tools for editing text. So that's more or less the idea. Another example would be, for example, the summary HTML tag that is supported by GFM. Like we are displaying some content that is hidden in a collapsible uh, drop down. Um, like we are going to display that in the content editor, but how do we provide an editing experience for that kind of content?
Uh, I'm not sure how about the collapsible. Like, do we actually support adding a collapsible using GitLab flavored Markdown?
Yes, yes, we do. Let me show you. Let me show you here.
Okay, you mean by adding users or something like that, tagging a user, right?
No, like you use this one. Um, I think it's
Okay, so
details.
yeah, details. Yeah. So we definitely won't be supporting this. This is custom, right? This is custom for GitLab only. Yeah.
Yes, but then when my question about what do we do about, well, it's like this year. That's
Yes.
what I meant.
Certain, like all of those things. I don't think Closemirror is going to support that out of the box. Uh, and and even if it did support it, we need to make sure we have proper serializer setup for it. For example, let's say if you tag a user, it's just going to display a user without a link in Closemirror. But if you set up a serializer and unserializer that converts it to a link and back, then when you convert it back to Markdown, it should be showing you uh, just username, but when you view it in HTML, it's going to be an actual link. Uh, so we need to do like this sort of stuff for every kind of HTML that GitLab Flavored Markdown supports.
Okay, but we can do that. Like we can just display the HTML that is produced by the Markdown API. That could be like when you send a user reference to a Markdown API, the output of that request is a link, as you say, and we just display it in the preview mode. Uh, but in the case of the content editor, what do we do with that HTML, with that link? Like, how do we treat it within the editor? I think that for links is a simpler answer because we can, for example, allow the user to edit the text within the link. The user can edit the link href attribute. But in the case of a mention, it could be something else. Like they shouldn't be able to do that. But in the case of a tag like summary, like what do we do? Like, do we make it read only perhaps? And we don't allow the user to edit that tag, at least until we can provide meaningful editing tools.
I'm not sure how we can do that because it's not. Uh, I think we could do that, uh, but the user should still be able to like delete the entire block if he wants to. Yeah, so as long as we can allow it doing that, let's say, for example, using prose mirror, you add a block that itself cannot be edited, but you can move it around. So if prose mirror allows that, I'm not sure if it does, but if we do some research, I think we can get to that. Uh, so if prose mirror allows you to display something that is read only based on what the markup was, I think we can disable editing for those tags. And I think it should be straightforward because uh, all the GitLab flavored Markdown has its own specific classes or ID. So we can just make a read-only reference and apply it to all the special content rendered by GitLab. It applies to the details. It applies to mermaid diagrams, uh, the links, short links like merge request, issue links, and a lot of those things.
Yes, I completely agree. I think that I mean it is technically feasible to do that. We can do it. Like Prosnifer provides first, for example, in the case of the summary tag, of the or no of the details tag, we can tell Prosmeter to identify that tag and convert it into a specific node type. And then in that node type, we can specify that it's read only. The user will be able to delete the entire node from the editor, but it won't be able to edit what is inside the details tag. So I think that's what you mean, right?
Yes, yes, that's what I mean exactly. My point is that I think we can just look at the Markdown documentation and see what GitLab flavored Markdown is present there, uh, and just use this one read-only tag and apply it to like every kind of content. Uh, I'm not sure if we can do that, uh, but in the end, like the eventual end goal is to support all of these tags, right? So maybe we can start off with making these placeholder. It's kind of like scaffolding, uh, where you define all of these mark types that GitLab flavored Markdown should support, and they are just read only and empty right now. And later on, we go and add the implementation for each of them.
Yes. Uh, something that is like that probably we could also do is that at the end, all of these types of marks and type of node, they contain text within them, right? Like that's the most basic construct that we are dealing with most of the time. In the case of the memory diagram, is not the case. But perhaps we can say that if we, for example, don't support adding new columns to a table, the user can still edit the text within the table. So they don't have to be like fully read only. Like we perhaps they cannot change the structure that is like specific to the interactions or to the ways that content is organized. But we can still allow them to edit the text within the nodes.
So there are two things that you're talking about. One is GitLab Flavored Markdown, and so this is something that GitLab extends on top of Markdown already. And now you're also talking about tables, which is already there in Markdown. It's not something that GitLab does specifically. So uh, I think we can treat both of those things separately. For example,
I
if
didn't
you talk
understand
about,
the last part. Like what are the two things that you said?
yeah, so GitLab flavored Markdown and just Markdown. So GitLab flavored Markdown is something that GitLab gives you, like mentions, merge requests, uh, and issues. It is very GitLab specific. And just normal Markdown is like bold, italic, underline, and all those things. And there are some complicated things like tables uh, that are a little difficult to implement, but they are still part of Markdown. It's not something GitLab does special, right? So my point is like, for example, in a table, if you want to edit a row or a column or a particular cell, it's possible to do because in the end, it's going to be converted to Markdown, and it's going to be the same as what Markdown was given to the API earlier, right? But in case of other GitLab flavored Markdown, I don't think it's going to work in the same way. So you cannot really allow editing something inside uh, GitLab specific things. For example, if you have a link to an issue number, let's say one, and if you try to change the issue text and say you change it to issue two, but the link is not going to change unless you add support for GitLab flavored Markdown completely here. So we should not allow changing the text of any specific like GitLab flavored Markdown. That should be
Yes,
read
I
only.
like actually it is like the way that like GitLab flavor Markdown is not only references. So Markdown have a specification that is like it provides like features that are common across all of the Markdown flavors that exist. That is called common mark. But
Yeah.
common mark doesn't support tables. And common
Okay.
mark, yes, like it doesn't support
So
tables. It doesn't
I
support.
didn't know that. I thought it's something that supported everywhere. But then again, that's a separate thing. I think we can, but still, it's an extension of common mark. My point is that it's not relevant to GitLab. It's it's not something that only GitLab can use.
No, definitely. And I completely agree with the idea of not allowing to edit the text within a mention because in the case that could be like a read-only node in its entirety. But
Yes.
what I meant was that like complex type of content like tables, like we could do that. Like we cannot the user
Yes.
cannot add another column, but they can edit the
Yes,
text within the cells.
yes. They can also add a column if they go edit the markdown itself and then come back to the restrictor later. Yeah.
Exactly.
So like let's treat these tables and list items. I think list items we can do in the first iteration, right?
Sorry, can you say that
Yeah.
again?
We can do list items in the first iteration, right?
Um, in the post iteration.
In the first iteration. So are we supporting like bold italics and what exactly are we supporting?
Well, that's exactly my question, right? Like I know that we have to support all of this type of content if we want to display an existing wiki page. Like if we want the user, if we want to allow the user to edit existing content that is already, in existing wiki pages, we have to support at least like displaying and editing those type of content.
Yeah.
TipTap already provides notes for those type of content. So I think that we can actually do that. The only thing that we have to do is to implement support for converting those notes back to Markdown.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's quite straightforward. I think you have done this for bold. I can see that it's not very difficult. It may be a little bit tricky for list items, but just a little bit. Not it should not be a lot of effort.
Yeah. But still, like, I think that is worth measuring how much effort it is. Like it can be easy. It could be like every issue is just like weight one, but it's still 100 issues because there are 100 types of content that we have to support.
Oh, okay. So in that case, yes, it definitely makes sense. I thought it must be like maybe 10, 20. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Maybe
that's
we
what
can
I
start off with the basic ones.
Yes, I guess like that we could start like with marks like bold, italics, and strike through, etc. And then we can continue with more advanced type of content. But that's still like that. It's clear how we have to progress in the implementation of the editor. What is not clear to me is what is the scope of the MVC. Like, we can
Okay.
continue iterating, but where do we make the cut and we say, hey, this is the MVC, and we are gonna now publish it and share it with the users.
I think we can bring this up with Eric and others as well. Uh,
Yeah, sounds good.
think, with MVC, I think it would be something like we can display stuff uh, and just a few tags are working. I think that should be good enough for MVC because the M in MVC stands for minimum. So I think we definitely do not want to support everything TipTap gives us in the MVC, but we still need to figure out how much or what exactly we want to support. I think it would be like bold, italic, underline, strike through, and like at least maybe 5 or 6 of these things and list items. And I think this should be enough for our MVC.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna probably try to refine these questions and make them clearer. And then I'm gonna share it on Slack, or I'm gonna ask Eric if we have an issue where we can discuss this asynchronously. Perhaps we can even meet later in the week to keep talking about it.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, that will be everything on my part regarding the content editor.
Okay. Yeah. So for view migration, I still I didn't get a chance to like work further on it. But which I did make some progress there, and like it's complete and it works for the most part. Still need to like cover a lot of tests and everything. It's was quite a big issue. But yeah, it should be good. Once it's converted, it should be a good thing. It should be easy for us to convert rest of the wiki to Vue as well, quite easily. Most of the bottlenecks that I have are related to uh, like the form being on the backend and a lot of uh, back and forth, backend and front end interaction because of like certain things like form errors are handled by the backend and still need to like initialize it. We need to be sure of what the order of uh, execution is. Like the GitLab form, this form needs to be rendered first, and after that, we need to render the error and all those things. Yeah, and it's also quite a bit of messy code because the errors appear on other pages also. Uh, so for those pages, you need to initialize it uh, beforehand. So yeah, it's tricky, and we cannot really initialize it 2 times. So I've been figuring that out. I should be able to do that today, tomorrow, but this would not probably not make it in the release.
Cool. I see that, like, do you think that we should break this MR or break all of that work in smaller merge requests? Because I see, for example, that the wiki form doesn't have specs yet, and it already has like a big code difference, a big amount of changes in the MR. So perhaps we can start, like, just to start merging code into master and make it more iterative. Maybe you can have a separate merge request where you can merge the wiki form uh, component with its specs. And in that way, we know at least that, that, like, the form implemented in Vue is working. And then we can create another merge request for the cleanup and another merge request for implementing error handling. In that way, we can, like, think about these problems in isolation.
Yes, I think we can make it in 2 merge requests at least. So I just add a new form and specs for the new form, and then I remove the old code. Uh, but definitely, it makes sense to do it in a single merge request uh, because you have the context. Uh, because you can see exactly where the code is coming from. If you look at the form HAML and the wiki, it's exactly the same except it's HAML versus HTML.
We can provide context in other ways. Like, we could say, like, provide links to the other merge requests, um, or we can also, like, make a reference that this
I think it will be
component.
okay to like I'll try. I don't think it's more than like 500 lines, but it will get there. I think I should be able to like push it in a single merge request. I know it's not ideal, but it's I have seen many merge requests that do migration sort of thing like this, and it's usually faster to get it done in a single merge request.
Okay. So that means that probably this is gonna carry over to the next milestone, right?
Yes,
Cool. Okay,
but I
that's
do hope it should get merged hopefully this week or next week.
yeah, like, it is very close. So we can probably, yeah, it's gonna probably not going, like, to be extended over the next milestone, for a long time. Cool.
Yeah. Anyways, this merge request is not something that is user facing, so it's not something necessarily that needs to go in a particular milestone. So
That's right, and we can focus on delivering the search that is actually going to be like a user-facing feature.
Yes. So yeah, my merge request is ready. There was only one issue that is actually resolved now. It was not the search settings were not displaying on the pages page, but they are now in test.
Cool. Yeah, I saw, and uh, now it's just a matter of getting this over the review. That's
Yeah.
I feel like that the delivering search is also like a bit risky because I don't know. It's like we are at the end of the milestone and code reviews are not like going very fast at this time. But let's try to actually do as much as possible to get it over the line.
Yeah, I think it should be good. Uh, I think you need to. I assigned the same reviewers to my merge request as well, so that since they have context of your merge request, it should be easier for them to review.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Um, so do you have any other topic to talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome. Okay, Himanshu, so that's all my part as well. So
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
let's
sounds good.
go. So
Yeah, I
let's
think
mhm.
yeah, we can bring up the MVC topic in one of the later calls. I think uh, we can bring it up in the kickoff meeting, or we can bring it on in Slack. I think it makes sense to bring it in Slack right now. The sooner we can think more about how much time it's actually going to take, and is 14.0 even realistic or not.
I completely agree. I'm gonna take the questions that I put in the document and I'm gonna share them on Slack. Uh, and I'm gonna try like to figure out what is the right place to discuss it. At least as a starting point, I'm gonna put them on Slack.
Okay.
Awesome. Also, thanks, Himanshu. See you later in the week.
All right. See you as
Have
well.
a good day.
Have a nice day. Bye.